Oh, hello, hello everyone. I'm Liz Herrera, and I'm the Director of Career Development within the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences. I'm actually accompanied here by my colleague Lauren Gallagher, not Elizabeth Herrera. I think it's great that she's on screen too because she is, my colleague, my powerhouse over here. We've been promoting Parker Dewey in the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences. We are very excited for this partnership, and we're so happy to see employers show up today to learn more about Parker Dewey and providing opportunities to our students. So at UIC, specifically the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, we have students that bring transferable skills, a versatility of a skill set, and people want to hire them. And so, what a better way than starting them off with a micro internship? So, we've been promoting this to our students. We've had students who've applied, who have been able to do these short-term projects, which is ideal for employers to really connect with our students and see what they're made of and what they can do. Another part that we really like is the accessibility of the platform, just the support that we've been getting from Parker Dewey. And, Danielle was on online a minute ago, and she's been incredible. And so it's just been great. And we really want to continue promoting this to our employers, our alumni. We've had alumni who have also recruited our students, but there's more to be done. And that's why we have this webinar today to answer any questions. I know that people have questions. They want to figure out how to really utilize this platform. So thank you, Jeffrey, for what you do and offering this opportunity and this platform. So I'm going to pass it over to you.
Thanks so much. Gosh, with that intro, I'm not sure you need me here. You sort of hit all of the highlights in the mission. So I'm thrilled to be here. Like Liz and Lauren, I am in chilly Chicago, and just really thrilled. Couple of very quick housekeeping notes before I kick this off and dive into the meat of it. First of all, we will be recording the presentation. We'll be sharing an email over the next day or two with the recording, with the slides, and all of that other stuff. Second, if you see me looking to the right, it's because I have the chat box open on my other screen. It's not because of my ADD. So feel free to use the chat throughout the discussion. I'll try to keep an eye on it and answer questions along the way. But as you'll see from the agenda, we'll also leave some time at the end for Q&A. So again, please don't be bashful. Questions, thoughts, comments, whatever. We're here. And as I said, I'll try to keep an eye to the right. So for today's agenda, we're going to hit a few things. First, we will do a very, very quick overview for everyone of what's going on in this space. We're going to talk about what a micro-internship is, this thing that we're going to talk about. Then where I get really excited is talking about actionable strategies that anyone on this call can apply right now. And I see a great mix of attendees. Again, companies that are in Chicago or represent companies in Chicago, companies that are elsewhere that want to be recruiting the amazing UIC liberal arts students. I see some UIC alumni in here. So again, we're going to give you strategies that you can apply right now, irrespective of where you are in the campus recruiting process, or even if you're just not someone focused on campus recruiting, but want to support UIC. Then we're also going to talk about an incredible opportunity specifically for UIC through a very generous grant. We'll show you how you can use this, everything we're going to talk about with no cost to you, where the students are still paid, but there's no application. It's not a reimbursement. It's literally like we get to play Oprah. And as I said, some Q&A. So jumping into it, Parker Dewey is an organization that's about a decade old. 100% of what we do is help organizations engage, assess, and ultimately hire college students for summer internships and full-time roles, and do it in a way that's both easier and more effective for employers. And again, we'll talk about some of the metrics, meaning easier with material time savings, better performance of new hires, cost effective, et cetera, et cetera. Our platform, it's also important to know, it is 100% voluntary by students, meaning that UIC is not allowed to make it a requirement of the students. The students are here because this is how they want to learn about your organizations and demonstrate skills. And again, this is something we're going to dive into. The takeaway is, though, again, we've been doing this a really long time. We've seen a ton of success with a range of organizations ranging from one-person startups to Fortune 100 and everything in between. So on the early career side, again, we know there's challenges. Cost per hire, according to the National Association of Colleges and Employers, is north of $6,000. It continues to rise. We also know that almost 50% of recent college grads, when they take that full-time role, they tend to leave within the first year. Either the employer realizes it's not the right fit or the new hire realizes it. Again, this is something that is becoming a significant issue and that we're solving. Essentially, imagine if you were able to get insights on all of those aspects before you make the hiring decision earlier in the process. Being able to have candidates engaged before you visit UIC, students who are excited and interested. When you're on campus at UIC, whether it's for the career fair, the info session, or the classroom visit, being able to have meaningful discussions with the students beyond the elevator pitch or rehashing what's on your company's website, being able to keep candidates excited about your organization after those visits. Look, we know students aren't opening those emails. We know they're getting bombarded. How do you actually keep them engaged after you've had that great conversation at the career fair? Being able to have insights on the students' interests and their skills earlier in the process, not just click, 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 I applied to everything, but real insights on how excited they are about your organization. And then for those of you that can't be at UIC, that can't be on campus, still being able to reach and engage their students and build the relationships, because we know how amazing they are. Everything I showed you isn't imagination. It's not something that's in the future. This is taking place right now. This is the concept of experiential recruiting, which is the intersection of employer branding and skills-based hiring. Employer branding, I'm not talking about what kind of swag you give away or how well your company's known or not. Employer branding is about helping college students understand the breadth of great opportunities. Nike, every college student has heard of. They might not be thinking about Nike for roles in data analytics or AI. Or here in Chicago, there's so many great Fortune 500 companies that are massive, but students, again, haven't heard of them. Or the small, exciting businesses or nonprofits or government organizations. How do you build those relationships with students to drive interest? The second half of this Venn diagram is skills-based hiring. Look, we all know GPA, major, even how well someone interviewed doesn't give you insights on if someone has the right skills to thrive. And this is especially true with liberal arts students who have those core skills that we know are most important: the problem solving, communication, analytical thinking. But often the recruiting process misses these folks. It doesn't let you effectively assess and see these skills of these amazing students who have these future ready skills in the world of AI. This is experiential recruiting. This is possible through this concept of the micro-internship. Now, if we were together live or if my Zoom skills were better, I would ask how many people have heard of micro-internships before. But since my Zoom skills are subpar, even 5 years later, I'll give you sort of the quick minute on them. Again, we'll share the slides, so I'm going to gloss over this pretty quickly. Micro-internships are very, very short-term professional projects, similar to the types of tasks that an organization would give a summer intern or a new hire when they start. They're projects that would take a student 10, 15, 20 hours to get done. They don't require onboarding or training. They're not projects that require you to share data or give access to sensitive info or internal systems. These are projects that are used to both drive excitement about your organization to students, to really showcase what they'll be doing in those roles, but also for you to get insights on their skills. And a couple other quick things to note: the micro interns, when they're working on these projects, are not your employees. They're not your contractors, meaning there is no HR burden for you. In addition, should you hire a micro intern for a full-time role or summer internship, there's no temp to perm or conversion fee. This is not a staffing firm model or anything else. We've designed the platform to be easy. One other thing to note: micro internships don't replace summer internships or full-time roles. They're a recruiting tool for you, as Liz said. So one of the students described it eloquently. They said, in the summer internship, it's like I'm getting engaged. The full-time role, I'm getting married. These micro internships are like going on a date. They go beyond what I could find from the info session or a company's website and let me share my skills with an employer beyond what they can see from a resume, but they're not high stakes. They're not that long commitment. They make it easier for exploration. Now, as opposed to making this sort of hypothetical, I'll show you three very quick examples. So one of the things we do at Parker Dewey is we'll take your job description that a company has, whether it's for an entry-level role like this or summer internship, and we'll actually unpack it into discrete projects for you based upon that 10 years of experience that we have. So for instance, a company's hiring for an entry-level data marketing role. A perfect micro internship is a competitive campaign analysis. Again, something a UIC liberal arts student can do on his or her own. You don't have to share info, and it lets you get insights into their skills, not just the technical skills, but the creative thinking and problem solving. It could be something that's on a manufacturing floor. Again, we're looking for someone who's going to be able to help us work with robotics equipment. A micro internship isn't going to put them on a floor working with a multi-million-dollar piece of equipment, but it might be training manual development. Again, let's see how well they can communicate and organize and critical thinking along with more of the topical knowledge. One of the ones that comes up all the time with liberal arts students is development roles. Again, development meaning app development or IT or otherwise, because so many of the liberal arts students, while they're studying philosophy or history or English, have been coding for 10, 15 years. They want to be doing this. They're the perfect example of the well-rounded candidates that companies want, who don't just have, again, the technical skills, but also the problem solving. You can use a micro internship like AI research or user experience testing to essentially create that pathway for the UIC liberal arts students into your organization while also seeing their skills. And that's really core to the entire platform. The assessment is built into the process. Every step of the way, you're getting insights on a student. And again, not just can they code in Python or how well do they use Excel, but those other core skills that UIC's liberal arts programs develop so well in their students, but we also know are tough to assess. So when the student's applying, do they have attention to detail, authentic interest in your organization? Along the way, how's their communication? Are they communicating professionally, or are they sending an email that looks like a text to a buddy? Are they taking feedback? Are they turning it in on time? And from the final work product, being able to see things like problem solving or intellectual curiosity. Again, these skills that Liz and Lauren and the entire team hone so well in the program, and we know are most important to employers, but are also the most difficult to assess. So one of the questions that always comes up is, why are students doing this? Well, they do it because it's how they want to be recruited. To my earlier comment, we don't allow colleges or universities to require that the students, every one of the UIC students on the platform is there because they want to be there. And they're there because this is how 95% plus of college students said they want to be recruited. This is how they want to learn about companies. This is how they want to demonstrate skills. They know the traditional process isn't allowing them to put their best foot forward. But then how does it support your hiring needs? So this gets into the second part of what we're going to discuss. Strategies that you can apply right now, whether you're an organization where you haven't yet been on campus or you're early in your recruiting process, how to start building that pipeline of UIC students. Maybe you were just there for a career fair info session or tabling event or classroom visit. You've met some great students, you have their resume. How do you keep them engaged beyond just blasting emails? What about engaging them? Or I should say, getting insights as you're engaging them, really teasing out who's a great fit. And again, if you can't visit campus this year, how can you use this? We'll go through 4 very concrete examples. I'm going to take a look at the chat real quick. Stephanie, again, great question. It looks like Lauren beat me to the punch. That's one of the beauties of micro internships is they can take place year round. They can take place year round. It's not just limited to the summer or winter break or a class schedule. Students are hungry to work on these, and because the typical project is only 10, 15, 20 hours, they can fit it into their schedule even if they have a full course load. So in the first example, this organization was a global healthcare organization, a hospital system. They had two key challenges. The first is there's massive competition for allied health roles. Again, think X-ray technician and the like. One of the things this organization was looking to do is build a competitive advantage, but also drive interest by students during their first and second years in roles in healthcare. Help students understand healthcare roles aren't just requiring going to med school or nursing school. There's all of these other opportunities. The second thing they were trying to do was help students not interested in healthcare think about this organization for roles in marketing and finance and accounting and IT and HR, all of these other departments, because students would see a hospital system and just assume they're only hiring docs and nurses. So before visiting campus, what this organization did was they posted some micro-internships. Some were tied to the allied health roles. Some were tied to, again, IT or HR, finance. And what happened is they showed up on campus and they already had a pool of students who were excited to visit them at their info session and at their career fair booth. And it wasn't just the allied health students, but those from those other areas. Again, the liberal arts students who was curious about marketing, as an example. The projects also provide a real differentiator, not just to get them to the booth at the career fair, but in the discussions, instead of just, again, rehashing what's on HCA's website and getting the resume and hearing the elevator pitch, they were discussing these real projects to give students almost an inside view of what they were doing. They also had insights on the students up front, could see which students were really interested, how they performed on the project, students with ties to certain geographic or other needs. That way, when they were on campus, they could really focus on engaging with those students, again, before setting foot on campus. And again, while this organization was focused on before the campus visit, the same playbook works sort of if you can't be there, or keeping students warm afterwards. So this organization had great students showing up and were expressing interest, but they were worried about how do we keep them engaged before we're on campus with the juniors and seniors to do the interviews. Or they were also thinking about those first or second year students, students who, again, were coming to the booth, but they weren't really offering summer internships until they were juniors or seniors. Look, we know in both cases, students aren't responding to those generic emails and they don't have interest in yet another webinar. So what this global medical device company did was they focused on a role where they had massive volume, business development. They were tough to fill roles, especially since they were looking for students with geographic ties, and they were also focused on student athletes. So the students were showing up for the event or the booth, and this organization was saying, how do we keep them warm? We don't want to lose them. So Parker Dewey created a business development audition. Again, essentially something where the student was going to do some research on their own, demonstrate those skills, learn about this organization, and it was crafted to both keep the students engaged. Again, interesting project that really showcased this company. What the projects also did was they allowed the hiring managers to get insights into the student skills after or before the interview. So after the event, what this organization did was they sent the emails, but instead of it being the generic, please apply in a month or come to this webinar, it was, here's a project we're going to invite you to work on. Here's what happened. First of all, the emails themselves were incredible success from the traditional metrics. Again, the email open rates, the click-through, the participation, but more importantly, they were seeing massive success in the metrics that actually mattered. They were keeping the students engaged, but also able to quickly determine who is the best fit, not based upon who had the highest GPA or the cleanest looking resume, but based upon actual work product. So they could focus on those candidates. As a result, in the first year that they ran this program, 100% of the students who were ultimately selected for full-time roles are still at the company. I think it's now 2 years later, including one of the students who got an Employee of the Year award. And as I said, first year attrition of new hires tends to be about 50%. In business development roles, it's typically closer to 70 or 80%. This company had 100% retention in the first year. The second year they ran it, so far the numbers are exactly the same. In addition, the hiring managers loved it. People on the business development team were ultimately making the decision. In their words, they didn't waste time interviewing the wrong folks. And when they hired those individuals, they had confidence that they were going to stay, which gets to the third example, which is about sourcing and selection. This organization had an incredibly strong brand. It was a national fitness chain. What they were finding is they were getting hit with the application avalanche that we've all talked about, where most of the applicants were actually more interested in roles at their franchise locations versus the corporate roles. So the team always had this stack of resumes they were spending a ton of time going through. They took a slightly different approach, though. They went to hiring managers who always had these small tasks come up, articles that needed to be written, job descriptions that needed to be updated, these we should and I shouldn't tasks that everyone has. And they went to those hiring managers and said, we're going to give you a perk. We're going to give you the opportunity to work with a college student on one of those projects. What a great opportunity. Hiring managers loved it. What was actually happening, though, is this team, the recruiting team, was building this pipeline of candidates. And in fact, in one case, they had a learning and development project tied to new hire onboarding. They selected 2 students to do it. One was a 3.9 HR major. The other was a liberal arts student with a slightly lower GPA. Both the students did the project. I'm sure you can see where I'm going with this. The student at the top was the liberal arts one, I'm sorry, the HR one with the 3.9 GPA. She turned in some good work on best practices for new hire onboarding, but there's some typos and grammatical errors, and the presentation's not as sort of effective, let's just say. The student at the bottom was the liberal arts student. She demonstrated that she had the technical skills, could quickly figure out best practices for onboarding, for instance, even though she wasn't an HR major. But she also showed the problem solving, the communication, the empathy, the understanding of how a hiring manager or professional would want to see data. Fast forward, that student was selected for a summer internship with this company and then ultimately a full-time role. Again, what a great example. And in the words of the hiring manager, this is someone we probably wouldn't have interviewed even through our normal process. The last example is about data, whether or not you can be on campus, data to help guide your decisions, such as what schools or how to focus or timing or otherwise, but also data that demonstrate the effectiveness of your work internally, which is so important right now. This was a global Fortune 500 company that had very small campus recruiting effort and a very unknown brand. They were not only trying to defend their existing early career program internally, but they were also trying to prove out that they should scale it. They were focused on both their DC headquarters, but also their office locations in places like Rockford, Illinois, or Texarkana, or Holland, Michigan. They started off by focusing on one of the ERGs tied to gender equity, where they went to the ERG and said, here's an opportunity to work with college students on projects. The ERG loved it. They then got the data. Again, they got the data to show they were able to engage students with ties to those geographies, but they also got data around cost per school or cost per hire, which was about a 70% savings. The ERG saw the immediate result tied to gender equity within STEM. But one of the things that was most interesting is the marketing team initially went to HR and said, hey, I know you did this for the ERG. Can we use it across marketing? We'll even pay for it. Again, when does that happen? This organization is now using it across the company, again, as a key part of their campus recruiting without the need to go be at all of the 1,000+ campuses they've had students from. This works for employers because, again, it fits within the process, whether it's at the very top of funnel about accessing or engaging, or deeper in the funnel about building the relationship and assessing skills and ultimately leading to better conversion in hiring. We've typically seen, even with the students getting paid for their work, tends to be about a 40 to 80% cost savings, and across the platform, about 98% first-year retention rate. So it's really effective. So the last thing I'll share before I open it up for questions is an incredible program for UIC. Through the various generous support of a foundation, everything I showed you, you can see for free, including payments to the students. So what you can do is essentially post micro-internships, select UIC liberal arts students. They can do the projects. You can get insights on the skills. You can keep the UIC students engaged. You can get work off your, all of these things, and it's not going to cost you anything. The program exists because the foundation is really focused on helping employers engage and assess and stop relying on GPA and academic pedigree and who someone's parents are, but also continuing to support the students as they're exploring pathways, as they're trying to get their foot in the door, while also getting data back to UIC so they can continue to support you as employers. And not only is it access to the projects themselves, but it's also access to the platform. All of the data I showed you at the beginning, all of this comes through, again, this free trial sponsored by this foundation. So how do we get started? Well, I always say the best way is send us a job description. Send us an internship description, whether it's a PDF, a link to something on your site. We'll give you some examples. We'll let you know if it doesn't work. But we've been doing this a long time. We're pretty confident we can come up with some pretty good examples. In fact, we always encourage companies to challenge us. Give us your most difficult role to fill, the one that you don't think there's any way a micro internship will work. Use the QR code or the link, and again, I'll post the link in the chat. Use one of those things and send us the project. We'll give you some, or send us the job spec. We'll give you some ideas on the projects. And again, think about how this ties to what you're doing with UIC right now. Have you been on campus yet? If not, what a great way to keep students engaged and warm and start to build those relationships. If you have been on campus, what a great way to stay in contact with those UIC students you met. Maybe you're deeper into the process and you're starting to think about assessing skills. Maybe you're not sure where you're going to be. Because again, of all the economic uncertainty, you're not sure how many summer interns you're going to have next summer, or full-time hires, or if you're going to have any. What a great way to build your pipeline for if and when you need it. So with that, I'm going to see if there's any questions, and also let Liz and Lauren, again, jump in with any questions or comments they have. I just saw one come in. Can you reiterate how the payment works? Who finances the student's time? Is it Parker Dewey or the employer partner? Great question, Anna. Typically, it is the employer that pays, but all of the payment flows through Parker Dewey. The average project is about $300 or $400. It tends to shake out about 20 to 25 bucks an hour, but it's all fixed fee. We've made this easy, so you don't have to keep track of hours or any of that other stuff. Parker Dewey is the employer of record for the duration of the micro internship, so you're not dealing with W-2s or 1099s or anything else. And if it converts to a full-time hire, again, no conversion fee or bill. That is the way it generally works. We have found that even with the payments to the students, the data still shows between 40 and 80% cost savings per hire. So for instance, if you're having 3 students do the same project or 4 students do the same project and paying each of the students 250 bucks, so the total cost is 1,000. If it leads to 1 full-time hire, it's still about 80% less than the NACE average. Now, through this foundation program that I mentioned, that cost is 100% covered. It's not a reimbursement. It's nothing you need to apply for. The student is still paid for their work, and you're still getting the benefits, again, through that very generous foundation grant. If the employer is unable to pay, is there an option for unpaid? Ethan, it's a great question. The short answer is no. First of all, we tend to have some of these foundation programs that we're able to use to help, especially for nonprofits and others. So happy to talk with you about those, like the one I mentioned. But there's another reason we don't allow unpaid, and we get the question all the time, especially from nonprofits. And it comes back to equity for the students and making sure that you're not artificially limiting the pool. So for instance, there's a lot of great students who rely on part-time work or other income sources, even full-time work, to be able to pay for college. And they may want to work at a nonprofit when they graduate or work at a community-based organization. How can we make sure they still have opportunities to get their foot in the door at those organizations, even without them having to make that tough decision of, am I going to eat this week or be able to pay rent versus getting experience? And again, through some very generous grants, we're usually able to help out those nonprofits. There's actually a great story where one nonprofit had a student do research on fundraising, go pulling out IRS 990s and other things to support fundraising efforts. The student was actually, through her work, was able to help this organization raise 6 figures, so much so that they were able to create a full-time role for her. So we see a lot of those situations as well. Again, if you use the link, Ethan, about your organization, we're certainly happy to work with you to find a solution to make sure that the students can still participate and get paid, even if you don't have the wherewithal to do so. So a question about international and undocumented students. From Parker Dewey's perspective, it is totally, totally, totally fine. The students are, again, employees or contractors of Parker Dewey through the Department of Education and immigrant, all of the different US organizations, even under the current administration. Gig-based work is specifically highlighted under OPT. That said, it is 100% up to UIC's International Student Office to allow the student to participate either under OPT or CPT. We work very, very closely with the schools on that. So again, it's seamless for the employers, but it's ultimately up to the school to approve. Stephanie saw a question about Make-A-Wish. What an incredible organization. We're huge fans. Again, if you use the link, we're happy to schedule time to talk through the very specific circumstances around how we can leverage some of that foundation funding. And we love your interns as well. You all are doing incredible work. And again, with these foundation grants, they're all done with the best intent, meaning that for companies, let's pick on some of Chicago's bigger companies, whether it's Boeing or ADM or Allstate. Part of what this grant is trying to do is help these organizations look beyond the traditional feeding pools, if you will, beyond certain schools or majors or GPAs, and see how valuable this is as a recruiting tool. Ultimately, so they'll continue to offer these opportunities on their own and see that even by paying the student, it's still incredibly cost effective. But obviously what these foundations are also trying to do is help the students get valuable experience while also helping, again, nonprofits. So it's something we're very, very cognizant of. I think I hit all of the questions. Liz and Lauren, anything I missed or anything you wanted to add?
No, one of the things that I want to add, and thank you for asking these questions, Stephanie, with the nonprofit. So we encourage our students to look for internships and opportunities that align with their values, their interests. They want to do meaningful work. And sometimes, the nonprofits are not able to pay for internships, as noted in the chat. So the DeLuca grant allows for this during this opportunity. So we're really grateful. And that's why I'm glad to see that we have some nonprofits on the call, because we know that you are doing meaningful work that our students want to do and that they can contribute. So this is a great way to engage our UIC LAS students. So I'm glad that people were asking that question.
Yeah.
I also want to shout out the Parker Dewey team because, as Jeff was mentioning earlier, challenge them, send them an internship description, a job description, because I know there's a lot of nonprofits on the call that do a lot of like client facing work, and would love for you all to kind of brainstorm a little bit about what that could look like, because I think there are some really awesome opportunities. So scheduling a call, that way you can get that kind of one-on-one support and feedback, and it's just a great way to brainstorm. So take advantage of that.
No, thank you. And it's a great segue to a comment Angela just asked. We're a nonprofit. What if we have little projects but don't have the budget to hire an intern after? I love that question. So we did a survey in the very early days of Parker Dewey asking students exactly that if this is something that's just a project where there's no, call it, internship or full-time role at the end of the tunnel, if it's an organization that just says we don't do interns, we don't do full-time, but we just have this project, we ask the students, is that okay if they're posting their project on the platform? I don't think I've ever seen a survey question get 100% agreement with it, but 100% of the students, and this was a relatively big N, said yes, it is. And the comments were, it's still a great experience for me. I'm still learning. One of the students wrote, maybe I'll prove myself so much or add so much value that the company will want to create an internship or full-time role. Again, I kind of smiled and loved sort of the optimism of college students, but we've actually seen that happen, again, including with that nonprofit example. So to the question after my little ramble there, Angela, there's two primary ways I always think about micro-internships. The first is, as Lauren said, send a job description. We will create a project that aligns to it that you can use as an intentional feeder, as a way to engage and assess. The second use case is much more in line with what you said. Think about, as we call them, the we should and I shouldn't tasks that you have on your own plate. We should write this article, but there's not enough hours in the day. We should go do research on these competitors or these organizations, or I shouldn't. I shouldn't be the one crawling through IRS 990s. It's not the highest and best use of my time. I shouldn't be the one updating our PowerPoint deck because it just ain't my skill set. Those we should and I shouldn'ts are absolutely perfect projects for micro interns. So even if there's not that full-time role or internship that you're using this to hire for, the students are still excited to get the experience, both to build their resume, to demonstrate skills, to gain confidence, et cetera, et cetera. So please send them to us. And again, we're happy to help. I think we answered all the questions. Lauren, Liz, anything I screwed up that you want me to correct or anything I missed?
No, you're perfect.
I'm definitely not perfect, as my wife and daughters remind me every day.
For today, you were.
That's nice. I have a 15-year-old and 17-year-old daughter, so I know for certain I am not perfect. No, it's great. And again, look, as a Chicago guy, it means so much to partner with UIC. You guys are doing such amazing work. It candidly bothers me because we hear companies in Chicago all the time saying we can't find great entry-level talent, or we hire students from certain CS programs and they come and they don't have the communication or problem solving. And my question to them is, are you going to UIC? Are you going to their liberal arts program? Are you recruiting there? And they're like, no. It baffles me because your students are amazing. And then when I talk with companies that are recruiting the liberal arts students from UIC, like, they're amazing. They're incredible. They have everything that we're looking for. They have the connections to Chicago. They have the grit. They have the desire. They have those core skills, the problem solving, the analytical thinking. So again, it truly is an honor to partner and collaborate with y'all.
Thank you, Jeff. Well,
Lauren,
that's why Lauren and I are here. We love our students.
They were incredible. I was trying to read Lauren's face for a second though. Were you laughing at me? I'm sorry. Now you're just like one of my daughters laughing at me.
Just see how fun we are.
For all of the attendees here, have you ever been on a Zoom that was so fun? It's so fun, and you get free stuff. We get to be Oprah giving away free micro-internships. Angela.
Yes, yeah. Angela.
As a UIC alum, that's something I kind of glossed over. I wrote down my notes to hit on it, but I missed it. As an alum, what a great opportunity to help a UIC student. Give them a project that, again, you don't have time to do or ain't the best use of your time. It's helping you because you're getting something off your plate. But for that UIC student, it is giving them such a valuable, useful experience. That's why, again, I'm obviously a huge fan of this program, and again, huge fan of the UIC team. So unless there are any other questions, Liz and Lauren, I'll let you guys close us out.
Oh, thank you so much. We're, for the people that attended our session today, you can also reach out to me and Lauren if you have any questions. We love connecting employers to students. Any other ways you want to engage with our LAS students, we're happy to chat. Lauren and I actually have also used Parker Dewey to hire interns. And I will tell you that it's definitely a very easy process. But if you do need some brainstorming, like we do reach out to Jeffrey and his team, and they're very responsive and extremely helpful. So this is a win-win, I feel, for students, for everyone involved in the process.
And we
That's
really,
great.
yeah, we
I
have an
love it.
incredible team that loves doing this, but literally the team calls everything about the platform Jeff proof. It has to be simple enough that I can use it without stressing out. Whether it's stressing out from an administrative perspective around payroll or HR or anything else, like we've taken all that off the table. And simple enough from a technical perspective that I can figure it out without being trained. Again, everything is so straightforward by design. So. And again,
I
thank you for
say,
the incredible words.
yeah, I said if I can use it, anyone can use it.
So now we'll say Liz proof.
Yes.
Lauren, we're making you crack up. We're here all week. Tip your
Good,
waiter.
good.
This is great. Again, thank you so much for the opportunity. With that, this concludes the webinar. As I said, we'll be sharing the recording and the slides. Again, I'm just so grateful to collaborate with y'all. And it's so nice to see so many people excited about this program. Please, please, please challenge us. Send us the job spec. Email us. We love this stuff. Have a great rest of the week, everyone.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.